Welcome to Solutions with Courtney Anderson. I'm Courtney Anderson and I am the host of the show. I would like to welcome you specifically to episode number 174. Episode number 174 of Solutions with Courtney Anderson. That is what this is. This is a show that is one of the Myth Warriors series shows. Our Myth Warriors series is a series where you and I, we are warriors. I love this. And we are ready for battle. We have our defensive, protective gear, and we have our offensive weapons, and we are ready. Let's go. What are we doing? What are we going to battle for? Okay, so we're going to battle obviously for ourselves. Our goal, of course, is to ask ourselves what's holding us back from surpassing our goals, and to ensure that what we're doing in terms of our work and our professional life is all for the greater good. How utilitarianism focused of me, but the idea is that not only should we have an emotional and psychological overall positive reaction to what we're doing, but also ideally we should be of service and benefit our community. So that's the joyful art of business that we're going to practice. So that's what we're doing. We're warriors, and we're going to get out there and we're going to surpass our goals, and we're going to practice the joyful art of business, and hopefully have better outcomes than we would if we didn't do these things. One of the things that we have to take incredibly seriously is the decision-making process we use, right? Garbage in, garbage out. And that sort of idea is that if I'm making my decision on bad information, then I'm probably going to make a bad outcome. I'm probably going to have a bad outcome because I didn't have good information. I didn't know. What? So we need good data. And one of the things that can hurt us is when we think something is accurate, or we think something might even be a fact, but it actually is a myth. It's a fantasy, it's a fairy tale, it's a falsehood, it's a fallacy, it's a lie, it's a deception. It's not something that we should make our decisions based on. And this is one of the biggest obstacles to us surpassing our goals and practicing the joyful art of business, because we get caught up in these things, we make decisions based on them, and they're not even accurate. Right? So if I, woke up and I called, my friend, and I said, "Hey, what is the weather today?" And my friend said, "Yeah, I'm really feeling like it's going to snow. I just feel like you need to go get dressed and put on a sweater and your winter clothes and your winter boots and your heaviest coat and your gloves and your hat and your scarf and everything, because I'm feeling like it's going to snow." And then I said, "Okay, that's information. I'm going to go put that on." And I did it. And then I walk outside, and sure enough, it's 100, degrees Fahrenheit, which I live in a desert in real life, and so it's not uncommon for that to happen in many months of the year. So if I'm out there in my winter coat and my sweater and my winter hat and my scarf and my gloves and everything, and it's 100 degrees Fahrenheit, I am not going to have a good outcome. I'm going to be really over layered and wearing inappropriate clothes for the temperature. And if I persisted in this, I could actually suffer, physical detriment, heat stroke. Now you would think, well, why would you ask your friend? Well, because people do this all the time. They make decisions based on things that aren't accurate. Why didn't you just check the weather? Why didn't you just go online and look and see what the weather forecast is and the local satellite imagery and the meteorologist from a credible source? And then you would know it was going to be 100 degrees, and then you would dress appropriately. Why didn't you just do that? Well, it's an easy question, and it seems like so obvious, but people, including you and I, we do this all the time. We make decisions based on things that aren't even accurate. They're just myths. They're lies. They're falsehoods. And why we do it is a really important question. So what we do in this series is try to attack ideas and poke and prod and ask, is this a myth? That's what we're doing. Sometimes we come up with something of a potential solution, and we say, yeah, it's a myth. Or we'll say, no, it's not a myth, it's a fact. Or it could be a fact, or it might be a fact. Sometimes we ask a ton of questions, and we still we don't have a conclusive answer, because it might be a very complex issue. But at least we started to ask questions. And the purpose of these programs, obviously, because they're, in short duration, right? They're daily, and they're anywhere between half an hour and a half at the most. But that's not enough for us to answer some of these questions, because they might be, again, very sophisticated and complex. But we certainly need to start asking questions. Instead of just sitting around all the time doing the same behavior and getting poor outcomes, we need to start to ask ourselves, could this be something that might be bad information or inaccurate? And if so, what do I need to ask or research or find out to potentially make better choices? That's what it's all about. So our Myth Warrior series is to protect us, obviously, from dying of a heat stroke when we're overdressed. But but it's not at all meant to be, inconsequential. It's important. It's really important that we attack a lot of these ideas because so many of them are simply, again, myths and fairy tales and things we just sort of heard. We don't even know where we heard them. So specifically today in episode 174, of course, I always mention come to CourtneyAnderson.com. That's our central site where we're adding content daily. All these shows we have so this is our audio or radio show podcast. We have a video or television show podcast that we also we have existing shows, and then we're getting ready to launch a new series of those shows. We've got articles on the blog. We've got links. It's a central repository for everything that we're doing and that we're planning to do in the future. So come by and visit. Also, episode 174 has an entire page on the site that's just about this show, and it's got links and it's going to have information. It's also going to have show sponsors. Our show sponsors, of course, the advertisers that you'll see on our pages, either a beautiful, colorful ad, or you'll actually see text sometimes. That's a link to one of our sponsors. Please consider them. All the things that we're doing and growing the show incredibly quickly. I mean, quick. In terms of time, we have to have the ability to make this a self-supporting revenue unit of the overall business, right? And so one of the ways we're experimenting with that is having our show sponsors, which hopefully will be a partner for you. That there's high quality products and services. So visit them on our show page and through our links so that they'll know that you came from our show and that we continue to work together to expand this program. Also, tell me what's going on. Send me a show idea, suggestion, feedback. And if you are accessing our program and you're out and about on the web, leave a positive or hopefully constructive review or rating on iTunes or Stitcher, Blog Talk Radio, Libsyn. We're constantly adding new distribution channels. So that's what some of those are. If you're thinking, well, I don't know what that is at all. Well, those are just different ways that you can access this show. And share the program on your social media. That's something that if you're invested enough to take part in the program and you find it to have some utility in your life, share it, please. You are the reason we do the program. I'm here to try to do everything in my personal power and ability to be of assistance and help you honestly achieve more than you even thought was possible. And it's a lot of work. And I know that you're putting in an intense amount of time and effort accessing the programs, reading the links that I provide to different articles and sources, conducting your own research, and taking control of your life. It's not easy. If it was, as we did in another program, we said if it was easy, everybody would do it, and that's accurate. This show today, our Myth Warrior show, our specific episode today is we all need someone to believe in us. We all need someone to believe in us. We need someone to believe in us. Whew. It's a beautiful topic. The question is this accurate data, right? Like an accurate weather forecast that tells us the correct temperature that we're going to experience when we walk outside or open the window or the door? Or might it be inaccurate, that we're out there in our winter coat and it's 100 degrees Fahrenheit? Well, I'm going to go ahead and give my position at this point in the program. I'm going to say that this is actually a myth. We do not all need someone to believe in us. Look in the show notes. So again, CourtneyAnderson.com, episode 174, we have a page just for the show. I put the definition of the word need. Now, some of us think, really, Courtney? I mean, I don't know what the word in English need means, really? Well, here's the deal. I use the dictionary all the time. A, because there are new words in there that I don't know, and B, because even if it's a word that I'm familiar with, what is it going to hurt me to look and just verify what the dictionary says the definition is? And it also helps me get to consensus and be able to analyze things. Again, right? Good data. So I have a dictionary definition there on the show page from Merriam-Webster with an APA formatted reference page note there at the bottom. And it says need. Definition: a situation in which someone or something must do or have something. Something that a person must have. Something that is needed in order to live or succeed or be happy. A strong feeling that you must have or do something. So the emphasis added, obviously, was must. So in each one of those, right? The situation, or must do or have something. Something that I must have. A strong feeling that I must have, right? I just kept emphasizing must because that's the core of it. That's what we commonly consider the word need, right? I must have it. I have to have it. I must have oxygen to breathe or I'll die. Okay, that's a fact to the best of our knowledge. Yeah, I go down underwater and I'm deprived of oxygen long enough. My body can't continue to function. If I go up too high in our atmosphere and the air is quote too thin and I don't have enough oxygen, I'm also going to be deprived of oxygen. I'm going to die. I mean, that's been, to the best of our current knowledge, it's been scientifically proven. It's not optional. It's not like I'm going to get up high enough without any protection in the atmosphere and I'll just, I don't need oxygen, forget that. Well, you may not feel you want it, or you might not feel you need it, but you do need it because you're going to die without it. You're deprived of it. I don't care what your feelings are. Your functioning of your physical body is not going to continue. And because of that, then people try to have different apparatus and oxygen tanks and other ways of delivering enough oxygen when they go up high in the atmosphere, or when they go down low underneath our oceans and bodies of water, so that they can continue to function and do so with sufficient amounts of oxygen. This is just not really, at this point, with knowledge as we have of our physical bodies and science as we know it, it's not optional. You can ignore this, but you're going to die. Whether you want it to or not is irrelevant. The point is that you have to have it. There we go. So when we look at this issue, and it sounds, again, it's beautiful. In a way, it's just, it's poetic. We all need someone. Right? We all need someone to believe in us. And I said, my position is that this is not true. No, we don't. We don't all need someone to believe in us. My argument is that this statement is a myth. It is a falsehood. Part of my argument is that we don't need it. Now, let's talk about a different issue. Do we want it? We want someone to believe in us. I would argue yes. You just think about popular culture and movies and poems. Oh, I love poetry. I'm one of these people for fun, and this may sound awesome to you or it may sound awful depending on your life experience. For fun, I literally sit around and read books of poetry. I'm not kidding. I'm not. In many of other episodes, in fact, you've seen episodes we've had where it's, either the show title or in the notes, they're poems and quotes from poems. Well, a lot of that comes from just my own personal, library of poets that I enjoy reading. I'm not kidding. I do this for relaxation and fun. Again, some of you are thinking, well, who doesn't, right? We all do this. Some of you are thinking, that sounds like the nerdiest, lamest, most dull idea of fun I've ever heard. But hey, it takes all kinds. I'm not ashamed. The point is that there's this powerful narrative of wanting someone to believe in us, wanting a family of origin, or parent, or a grandparent, or a special aunt or uncle, a sibling, a teacher, as our worlds expanded and we became older, a teacher who believed in us, right? The parent who believed in us, that grandparent that believed in us, that special aunt or uncle or cousin, or the neighbor that believed in us, the teacher who believed in us, the coach who believed in us, our friend who believed in us. And then, of course, we have a whole sub genre of the romantic partner that believed in us, right? We have whole narratives where somebody's, the storyline is, well, I was a disaster, or I wasn't the best I could be, and then I met whoever they are, and then, whoa, they changed my life because they believed in me. And then because they believed in me, I began to believe in me. And now everything is, beyond super awesome. And that happens. I'm not trying to make fun of it necessarily. What I'm saying is it's a common narrative. And my argument would be it's common because it's something that we do aspire to have in our lives. Wouldn't it be great if people believed in us? Wouldn't it be awesome if there was, I woke up, earlier today, and there was just sort of a chorus of people that, sang songs about how much they believed in me when I started my day. And, wouldn't that be beyond awesome? Well, I'm not really sure if I want that in my, like in my room where I sleep. So I'm not really sure the logistics of that and whatnot. But yeah, I mean, when you read and you look at, especially in our shared human history of societies that were, based on royalty, right? And there really were these all over our different parts of our shared planet. There were these different experiences where people who were royal, right? So they're the emperor or the queen or whatever. They had people, tons of people whose only job was to stand around and tell them how great they were and do whatever it is they needed, right? So, dress me or bring me my water or, wash my hair or stand there and tell me how great I am. And I'm sure they probably people sing songs, standing and telling how awesome they are. People wrote, anthems and gave tribute to them, right? You're so awesome. I believe in you. You're the best emperor or queen or czar or whatever we've ever had, whatever. Long shall you reign. That's not a joke. People really did that. And I'm sure at some level, let's just be on the positive side of this in a very narrow scope of analysis. I'm sure at some level, yeah, I'm sure it was nice. They're singing a song about you. They made a painting about you. They're acting a play about you. They're telling you just how wonderful you are. Everybody believes in you. You're the best leader ever. Everything you do is divine. In many societies, these people were also seen as deities themselves, sort of, or actually, right? So it was literally the divine right of kings, right? Like that it was the deity, whatever deities had selected this person, and then everything they did was awesome. It was super awesome. It was beyond awesome. And they were believed in. Or here's the deal, or at least they were told they were. Now, of course, we read these narratives and then we see historically, while they were distracted with that, there was some, plotting and political backstabbing and, a murder and, somebody sabotaged them or they were thrown in a prison or whatever. But at least to their face, they were being told that people believed in them. Okay. And again, it's that, and there's so many songs, right? Just these songs, having someone to believe, just believe in us. Again, family member, and people with so much beauty and emotion will talk about that, what it meant to them, that their father believed in them, that their grandfather believed in them, what it meant to them, and how it changed their lives for the better. And again, wonderful. The challenge with this is what we've seen with some other shows in this series. What do you do, though, if you don't have that? If you're someone who says, well, my grandfather, I never knew. I don't, or, they passed away, or I didn't even know who they were, or I was raised in foster care, and so I still don't know who my grandfather was. Some people would say I knew them, but they didn't believe me. They just were mean to me, or maybe they ignored me. Maybe they just told me I was an idiot. Maybe they told me nothing. Who knows, right? So the challenge with something like this, and the reason why I'm so emphatic that this is a myth, this is a lie, it's a falsehood, it's fallacy. You don't need someone to believe in you. Is because if it was not a myth, if you really did need someone to believe in you and you didn't have anyone to believe in you, then what do? You'd be stuck. And you'd have your reason for not surpassing your goals and not practicing the joyful art of business would be that you don't have anyone to believe in you. So what could you do? And if this was accurate, you'd be true and truthful in that. You'd say, hey, look, I'm ready to get out there, make all these great things happen, and live the life that surpasses all of my goals and all of this, and be of service, but I can't because I don't have anybody that believes in me. And again, I either didn't know any relatives that believed in me, or none existed, or I never had the opportunity to find out who they were. I never had any teachers or neighbors or friends or whatever that believed in me, or if they did, they never told me. And my boss doesn't believe in me. My coworkers don't believe in me. My kids don't believe in me. My spouse doesn't believe in me. I don't even have a spouse, or I don't have any kids, or I don't even, whatever. And so the person would say, I can't. I'm unable to do these things because no one believes in me, and that's not my fault. And they would be telling the truth. So I'm attacking the central idea that you need someone to believe in you, and I'm saying that you don't. Now, like I said, would it be nice if someone believed in you? Would you want someone to believe in you? Yeah, I think that we can historically and in current times concur that globally there's not a society or anything that I've studied or anywhere I've visited or lived or been where I've met people who say that they legitimately believe they don't want anyone to believe in them. Now, sometimes people are so angry or so bitter or so disappointed in life that they'll say, well, they don't need anybody anymore, and they just give up. They give up on themselves, and they give up on life, um, and sometimes for when you listen to them or you understand what they've experienced in life, it's not a decision that's not logical. The challenge, of course, is when you don't believe in yourself, then it becomes very difficult to get other people to believe in you. Now, the challenge is, well, how do you believe in yourself if nobody else does? Well, that's the question. My argument would be that you just sit down and you think about it, or you stand, or you rest, or you supine. I don't care where your physical body is, but you need to ask yourself. You either can say to yourself, well, nobody else believes in me, thus I'm not going to believe in me, thus I'm in trouble. It's going to be hard for me to convince the people at the job interview to hire me. I don't even believe in me. I don't even believe they should hire me. Okay. So much of our time is invested in thinking about the ideal, right? What ideally would have been awesome, or what ideally would be awesome. Wouldn't it be awesome if I were and my body was ideally perfect? And that's going to be totally different depending on who you are. But people spend lifetimes on this. Some people spend so much time on sitting around thinking about the ideal that they wish they had or want and that they don't have, and then they sometimes say to themselves, forget a wish. I need this. I need to be this. And then people will do things. Again, we've talked about this in other programs, right? People have a surgery on themselves and do all kinds of things. In their mind, they're thinking, I need this, right? I need to be this ideal thing, so then all these really great things will happen. And until that happens, I can't do anything because I'm stuck with this non-ideal situation. And they go to incredible lengths. Sometimes people, self-harm and sometimes people self-destruct, right? So my argument is that we should spend some time thinking, and maybe a little time thinking of what would be the ideal. My argument, though, is there are going to be very few things in life that are ever going to actually meet our fantasy version of what's ideal. Even if you and I go and we get in our literally the most pristine pinnacle of physical conditioning imaginable for our size and shape and health situation, are we still going to match that ideal fantasy? Probably not. Have you known someone and they have they have the ideal job? It's the job that they've been talking about, they really wanted ever since you knew them when they were, a little kid, and they talked about it and they worked really hard and they made all these sacrifices, and now they have it and they're still not happy. Now they complain about stuff at their ideal job. How about the people who have the ideal spouse or romantic partner? Oh, it was ideal, it was so wonderful, and maybe they even had ideal commitment ceremonies or marriages, and still they complain. And I say, well, I just didn't know it was going to be like this. I had no idea that they were going to do this. Look, very few things ever match the ideal for a couple of reasons. One, ideal is that it's a fantasy. It's imagination, pretend time. And we should spend a reasonable amount of time doing that for all kinds of reasons. One, it's fun, it's interesting. Two, it helps us explore our minds. But we shouldn't necessarily look at our lives and diminish them because it's not the ideal. Because in most situations, it couldn't even exist in the ideal, because the ideal is so based on fiction and imagination. And the other problem is that we're self-sabotaging what we have because we're so caught up in this resentment that it's not the magical imaginary thing. And if we're not little children, and of course this show is not set for little kids, so if you're 3 years old or 6 years old, this is not the show. This is for adults only. So assuming you're not a little child, then that's not a healthy approach to life. I would argue that our actual lives right now, in so many ways, surpass our dreams. They certainly surpass a lot of our dreams of our historical forebears. Think about that. If you went back in history, even 100 years, and you showed people, hey, here's a smartphone, here's a GPS, they'd think it was magic. And yet we live all this and we take it for granted, and people still find a way to complain. Do you need someone to believe in you? You do not need it. If you had someone who believed in you, then you probably wouldn't be listening to the show, because you would read this and say, oh, we need someone to believe in us. Well, of course we do. And I have a grandpa, grandma, my mom, my dad, my stepfather, my stepsister, my friend Fran, my husband, my oldest child, my best friend at work, my boss. If you have a whole laundry list of people who you are confident that they believe in you, then you're not worried about it because they already have it. So it wouldn't even be on your issue list of things to think about, because you would think, oh, yeah, I have it. It would sort of be like if you read a show title and it said we all need, two legs that are functioning, that we can walk around on. If you have two legs that are functioning, you might think, okay, yeah, I have that. I'm not worried about it. I'm not concerned. Nothing to see here. I have my legs. My point would be then, what does it mean to the person who doesn't have two functioning legs? Right? That's the person who's like, oh, well, if we needed that, then I'm doomed because I don't have that. And then people get all this self-destructive stuff, right? Well, I don't have the two legs. That's it. Everything's ruined. No, stop. It would be nice to have for many reasons. But if we don't have, maybe we weren't born with, or we used to have and now we don't have, then that is. Let's focus on other stuff. And instead of, again, getting caught in that situation of wouldn't it be ideal? Yeah, it maybe would in a fantasy, but is it at all relevant to what is the situation? If you're in a situation you believe no one believes in you, right? It may be that actually nobody does believe in you. There may be nobody. You may, again, have not known your biological family, or they may all be deceased, and it might just be as is you. We've done a similar show about this idea of people caring about you. And people get all caught up in that no one cares about me. Similar idea. Although different, though. Believing in you is just sort of this powerful idea that you can do this. I know you can. And it's wonderful if you have that. There are people who have people that actually do believe in them, but then that person's own narcissism and self-indulgence and immaturity negates it. And they'll say, well, yeah, grandma believes in me, but grandmas always believe in their grandkids. That's not true. We could sit here all day long and go through cases where we have records and proven evidence where the grandma didn't care at all and either abandoned or neglected or even abused the grandchild. So that's not true. That if anyone believes in you, congratulations. You got lucky. You have no control over these types of things. If you were born into a family where everyone believes in me. I have 9 siblings and they all believe in me, and I have all my other relatives and they all believe in me. Well, great, but you didn't do anything to make that happen. Within sort of our rational world analysis, you're just born into that family. You got lucky. Good. If you were born in a situation where you don't have any relatives, and or the ones you had or knew, no one believed in you, you didn't do anything to cause that. Again, that's just life. Now the question though is, what do you do? My point is, and again, I made a similar point in these other shows about caring and all this kind of stuff. You need somebody to care. I also made the point in the show about mentoring, right? People get so caught up in that. Oh, I was trying to make my career dreams come true, but Courtney, I couldn't get a mentor. Nobody would mentor me, and everything's a disaster and everything. And it's okay. Look, if you had an ideal mentor, that would be, again, fantastic. If you don't, then keep going towards surpassing your goals on your own. Don't sit here and lament the fact that it doesn't exist and why it doesn't exist, and does it mean that you don't deserve it? No, it just means for whatever combination of reasons, where on the planet you are, the random people that you are, around. It just didn't, the, the, the factors just didn't line up to give you all of those coincidences that would have given you the ideal mentor. And I said in that show, then what else is there to do about it? Be your own mentor. Research what you're looking for. Support yourself. Do everything you can to ask other people for, if they won't be your mentor, ask them for pieces of information or just observe them or do whatever you need to try to glean the expertise and experience and guidance that you're looking for. And it's the same thing with this idea. Although I think it's a little bit more powerful, this idea of someone believing in you. Now, of course, you can make the point that even if you don't need it, you want it. But if you don't want it, you'll suffer all these negative outcomes. My point would be you yourself obviously are someone. You're an entity, you're an organism. Why can't you believe in you? And that's where again it gets in that self-destructive loop where people say, well, I can't believe in me because nobody else does. The fact that nobody else believes in me is evidence that I shouldn't believe in me. And that, to me, that's not logical at all. The fact that no one else believes in you could be evidence that you shouldn't believe in yourself. It might be that you're the most horrible disaster of an organism that ever has existed in the universe, and as such, no one should believe in you. It's possible. Now, it's not probable. Anything's possible, right? It's possible right now that we are all on planet Mars together. It's possible that we're all having, an alternate universe experience. Anything's possible. Is it probable? Well, of course not. First of all, if it was probable, you wouldn't be listening to some program about how to potentially meet and surpass your goals because you wouldn't care if you were the most awful organism in the universe. The fact that you even are sensitive and aware of the issue is indicative of the fact that you aren't. And it could be that the reason no one believes in you is because there's nobody to believe in you. Like I said, there may be nobody that either is alive or ever existed or that has the capacity to believe in you. So it's they don't have the ability to do it, then they're not able to do it. But you're here and you're making the effort by listening to the program. To me, that's prima facie evidence, right? That's on the face of it. Sort of a legal term. On the face of it, to me, that proves the case that you are worth it because you already asked. You asked by listening to the show, right? So if you think that you want someone to believe in you, fine. You need to go ahead and be that person. And there's research out there that often shows that we teach people how to treat us. So if you teach yourself that you're worth believing in, then it's likely or potentially more likely that other people will see you as worth believing in. And this is somewhat related to, although not directly overlapping entirely, but somewhat related to that idea of confidence, right? Confidence. Where does it come from? What is it? I've used quotes in other shows, and we talked about because confidence is related to so much, right? Like it's related to asking for raises and about applying for jobs and about opportunities and its ability to confidence turns thoughts into action. It's one of the quotes I've used from a source. Confidence turns thoughts into action. Okay, well, where does it come from? You need it. I do argue that you do need confidence. That's a different show. It's not a myth. You do need confidence. You don't need somebody to believe in you, though. You don't need someone to believe in you to have confidence. If nothing else, start with yourself. And why not you? Seriously, why not you? Why not you believe in yourself? Why not? You cannot give me an answer to that because there isn't one. You can say, well, because nobody believes in me and I made a lot of mistakes in my past and I wasn't always a good person and blah, blah, blah. Hey, look, who hasn't? You're here now. You're making the effort today. Sometimes we start and we think, well, I don't have any humans that believe in me. Are there any other species that could believe in you? Maybe a pet fish, a bird, a mammal. A lot of people start with that. It's a little easier in some species. Sometimes it's a little harder. My point is simply this. None of us need it. And we know that because there are people who believe in them and still don't believe in themselves. We've all known those people, right? I'm just not good enough. You're thinking, how can you not say that? Like you were promoted and everybody tells you how great you are. Nah, I just don't believe it. Okay. So there are people who, even with actual evidence of everyone that they could desire, believing in them, they still don't believe in themselves, and they self-sabotage, and they do all these awful things. But you're here and you believe in yourself, and I believe in you, and you should believe in you. And if you want someone to believe in you, I understand that. Not an unusual thing. We talked about that. The question is, what can we do? And for the people who are really negative, that's when I ask you, why not you? Why not you believe in you? Why not? Just try it. It's amazing how you'll try something and you'll think, oh, I'll hate this. You'll think that before you even try it, right? Oh, I'll hate this. This is stupid. This isn't going to do anything. I don't even know why I'm bothering. Okay. We all have done that. I do that myself. I've done shows on some of my more ridiculous times where I got into that trap. And then you try it, and then lo and behold, wow, that sort of was kind of potentially maybe feel a little bit better, or I got a better outcome. It doesn't cost you any money to practice this thing where you think you can believe in yourself. It doesn't cost you any money at all. So make the effort. Again, I strongly encourage you to come to CourtneyAnderson.com, share with me your show ideas, what's on your mind, put our show reviews or ratings out there wherever you're finding it, and spread it on your social media, and please support our sponsors. Here's the bottom line. Again, it would be really great and nice and lovely if we had the fantasy person or people that we want to believe in us to believe in us. And maybe that'll happen. And if it does, great, we're ready. We've talked about it. We're prepared. And all we're going to do when it happens is say, yay, us. And thank you to the people. If it doesn't happen, then it doesn't happen. In the interim, why don't we practice for free? It doesn't cost us any money. Just try this little thing where we're going to treat ourselves. You're going to treat yourself the way that this imaginary person would treat you if they believed in you. And you're going to do it yourself. And there's even techniques, and I never cease to just publicly humiliate myself. But here's an example. So when times in my life, and I'm having these pity parties, and no one believes in me or whatever, and it's an exercise they recommend in many different types of professions for dealing with those types of potentially negative feelings. Is write yourself the letter that the person who believed in you would write you. Dear granddaughter, dear, whatever, wife, dear mom, and then write down what you would want that person, the imaginary person who believed in you, to say to you. You're the best granddaughter ever, or you're the most awesome mom. I'm so grateful. You're so patient and you kind, and you always ask me how I'm doing. Whatever. Write that down. From your boss. You're the best team member I've ever seen. You're very conscientious and you're always on time. You have attention to detail, and I'm just grateful you're here. Just write it from them. Now it sounds kind of weird and goofy, and again, I'm publicly humiliating myself. I have done this. It's again, while doing it, I feel like, oh, you're so weird. Maybe not. Who knows? I'm not the only person who's experienced these feelings and anxiety. So how do I know that? Because somebody went and wrote an article about it, or wrote a research paper, or came up with the technique. So it wasn't about me. They don't know me individually. I don't exist to these people. So it must be that it's happened to other people. And just that process of sort of putting it to paper or to your tablet or whatever, and see the words, I found it to be positive. And it didn't cost any money. It cost just a little bit of time. So why not try stuff like this? And there's so many ways you can explore to invest in yourself. And I'm begging you to do so. This thing where you just tear down your own value and you destroy yourself from within. It's common. We all see it. It happens all the time. In media, we see it in our societies with people who are famous or people that self-destruct. But what does it gain anyone? Just more pain. So please don't do this. Please, give it a chance. Give yourself a chance. I really, again, do appreciate you being here. And I, of course, want to reiterate, I believe in you because you're here and you're one of my community members. You exist and I exist. And we have equal value. And I'm grateful to you. So thank you.